I was sad to hear of the passing of English actor John Challis, who passed away last week at the age of 79. I, like millions of people in the UK, grew up watching Challis work his magic as car dealer Terence Aubrey Boyce, known more widely as Boycey, in John Sullivan's classic British sitcom Only Fools and Horses, which ran on the BBC between 1981 and 2003. His funny quips, his distinctive laugh, and the relationship with his wife Marlene played a part in making that show a success. I have many happy memories of his character, and I'm sure you do too. Some that spring to mind come from the 2002 Christmas special, Strangers on the Shore. I won't spoil it for those that haven't seen it and may want to check it out. Believe me, there are still some that haven't, but it does come highly recommended. But two lines that stick out from that special are, "Can you smell onions?" and "Do you want a sandwich?" I realised fairly recently, though, that my first exposure to John Challis may not have been the aforementioned often run sitcom starring David Jason and Nicholas Lyndhurst, because he was one of those faces that turned up quite frequently in TV shows as a side character or in a brief cameo. I believe my first glimpse of him, although I didn't know it at the time, was on an old VHS passed down from my sibling called Roland's Rat the Series, a BBC sketch show that ran in the mid-1980s. The famous Rodent and his friend Kevin the Gerbil, previously of TVAM, were a strange phenomenon aimed at family audiences. Looking at it now, it was pretty adult at times. Challis played a policeman in a bizarre but very funny sketch called Bridge Over the River Kwai. It also had a post-EastEnders Ross Davidson, who tries to blow up a bridge until Challis stops him. The sketch ends with the policeman's car being blown up. "That's my car," he says, with perfect comic timing. His other appearances on television include roles in Juliet Bravo, Ever Decreasing Circles, The Bill, One Foot in the Grave, Open All Hours, The New Statesman, Don't Wait Up, Soldier Soldier, Brass Eye, My Family, In Sickness and in Health, Benidorm, and Heartbeat. Just reading this list feels like a what's what of TV from anyone who grew up in Britain in the last 40 years. After Only Fools, Challis would star as Boycey again in a spin-off sitcom called The Green Green Grass, with Sue Holderness returning as Marlene and Jack Doolan playing their son. It ran between 2005 and 2009. My family watched the show on Friday nights, and I still remember that John Sullivan theme tune. It's ringing in my ears as I talk about it, and I remember that the whole room laughed together as Challis and Holderness showed that they could be more than just side characters. I caught an episode about 5 years ago and was surprised how well it still held up, and how I now felt nostalgic towards it. It's true that it wasn't as good as Only Fools, but for people of my generation, where Fools sometimes seemed like a whole different time, it was nice to have this show that offered something fresh for these characters. I last saw Challis in an episode of the modern-day Sooty Show, which was an absolute delight. He never stopped working, whether it was on the screen, in the theatre, or via those personal celebrity videos that you can now get. Coincidentally, I watched what is said to be his last video, recorded just a few days before his passing the other day, with my son, who is nearly a year old. As Challis did the Boise routine, my son started laughing as John became the character, his delivery faultless, still getting laughs right up until the end. A true professional. Whatever your introduction to him, he has entertained millions over the past half-century, and will continue to do so for years to come. Rest in peace, John Challis.